picture a college reunion filled with nostalgia, joy, and old friends, until an unexpected encounter with a ghost from Teep House. The truth is more devastating than you could ever imagine, and the fallout will leave you questioning everything believed was my soulmate for 26 years. Let's call her Jennifer. We met in college and spent a decade as friends before T being her friend, another year trying to win her over, and the remaining 7 years dating. We even endured a few withstand every test thrown at it. Jennifer wasn't just my wife and the mother of our child, she was my closest friend since college. She understood me more devastating. About a week ago, Jennifer and I went to our college reunion. A college hosts a reunion every year. Performances from singers and celebrities, and alumni eagerly anticipated each year. This year, it was our class's turn. Gay couples who had stayed together for so long. We entered the event eager to show off our seemingly strong relative time reconnecting with old friends. It felt like a return to the best moments of our lives until someone I hoped never to see again approached us. Let's say everyone knew about his creepy infatuation. Jennifer was one of the brightest students in our class, and like any out of them too. However, Bill wasn't the type to just flirt and move on if the girl wasn't interested. He was relentless. He PUP, even though he knew she was with me. I've always been confident in our relationship and didn't let his advances be out of his league, but he never stopped trying. I remember when Bill found out Jennifer had married me. He actually texted me, claiming she had made a mistake. Ever knew Jennifer, and I laughed at his childishness and romantic notions. We hadn't heard from him or spoken to him since he would have moved on by now, considering it had been 35 years since college and 26 years since our marriage. Us with hugs, but Jennifer opted for a handshake because his intense gaze made her uncomfortable. He took as he noticed. I couldn't help but ask if he had brought his family to the reunion. He replied that he was single, mentioning he had bereft my sympathy, saying, "I'm sorry to hear that," to which he responded dramatically, "Well, yes, you should be sore. If I were younger, I might have confronted him physically, but as we're approaching our 60s, such things no longer he of a sleazy loudmouth guy you wouldn't pick for sports." Even though everyone heard his joke, no one responded, and Jennifer became noticeably quiet. A close friend Maggie took Jennifer aside. We tried to lift her spirits, encouraging her to forget about the trouble. We both attempted to ease her mind. Suddenly Bill approached us out of the blue. I suspect he had been keeping and to upset her. Instead, he said he wanted to make her feel happy, that despite the years and the effects of aging, and told him to back off. He expressed genuine regret for causing discomfort. Jennifer asked him to leave us alone. Being of our lives. Those words made me think it was time to put this behind us and move forward. That night was undoubtedly the fin, as no point in dwelling on the past. Jennifer hugged him and urged him to move on. We all headed to the dance floor. Enjoyable time. Later I noticed Maggie and Jennifer talking to Bill, who was standing beside them. Engaging in conversa was resolved. I kept an eye on them to ensure Jennifer was okay. Bill whispered something in her ear, and she smiled. Jennifer would have reacted differently. This gave me the green light to relax and enjoy myself with other friends and classmates. About an hour later, I didn't pay it much mind because we were all mingling separately. However, when they didn't reappear after some time, I assumed the loud music drowned out their phones. After roughly 30 minutes, Jennifer returned, but something but I had a distinct feeling she was different. She became unusually quiet and kept urging me to leave. Maggie Joy someday had argued because they avoided eye contact. I repeatedly asked Jennifer why she seemed upset and wanted to leave early, but she remained silent. I wanted to Jennifer remained silent throughout the entire journey back home, which lasted over an hour. I kept asking if she was feeling uneasy because she's usually full of energy. I asked if it had anything to do with Maggie, but she simply said usted and left her alone when we got home. While most of our friends were posting happy pictures and chatting on it might be the last, Jennifer slipped into bed with her eyes closed. I suppose she wanted me to believe she was asleep. Why do I say that? It was almost 2:00 a.m. when I went to bed, not sure how long I'd been asleep when Jennifer woke me up, crying, with her head on my chest. I held her closer ends, but she didn't respond. She continued crying. I held her tightly, showing my support since she wasn't sharing WD. When her tears finally stopped, she revealed something that left me stunned. She confessed that she had cheated further. I felt frozen in shock, thoughts swirling about what might have transpired. The last time I saw Jennifer, she was dancing for about an hour. When Jennifer returned, she looked distraught and insisted that we leave the party immediately. Sure, why with her? Which explained Jennifer's upset demeanor. I was still in shock, unable to speak. So Jennifer started explore me that while they were dancing, Bill kept apologizing for the embarrassment he had caused her, especially after ends, claiming that in all his travels, he had never met anyone as remarkable as her. Jennifer explained that she started to believe his sweet talk and fell for his apparent sincerity. He asked her to go for it, saying it would be their last chance to talk and that she deserved to know his true feelings. Wanting to hear him ask some peace and quiet. While they were on the lawn, Bill confessed his lifelong love for her, describing her as the he message was clear. He was still in love with her. Jennifer admitted that she was drunk and foolishly believed his moment. Jennifer felt a strange sense of relief, as if a huge burden had been lifted from her shoulders, making her feel. I will not go into explicit details of what she shared with me about what happened next, but she told me everything. Our ends kicked in during the act, and she pushed him away. My mind was in a daze and my body felt numb. She nudged, give me a moment. She kept crying and apologizing. Eventually I told her to go to bed and we would talk about it in TST. Closed my eyes and lay there, replaying the situation in my mind over and over. I reflected on the events until Bill had given me a weird, unsettling grin after Jennifer returned from their makeout session. Although I did not thin NT smile, indicating that he had finally won her over. With that realization, I felt a surge of anger and disgust rise up, and the thought of sharing the bed with her became unbearable. I noticed she had fallen into a deep sleep after hours and other essentials into a backpack and left our home. I loved that woman. We had been married for 26 years, and we had a family and children, but I couldn't stay. I knew her well, and if I had stayed until morning, she would have leaked her number along with all her social media accounts. It was already sunrise by the time I managed to fall asleep on stop with calls from my children. Jennifer and I have 2 kids, a 24-year-old son and a 21-year-old daughter, both stories. I realized I had made a hasty decision to leave Jennifer that very night. I should have planned more carefully. I have read stories where people pretended to act normal with their cheating partner while secretly plotting revenge, and have acted normally with Jennifer after what she had done. She was not only my spouse, but also my closest friend. She would have seen through it immediately, and I couldn't bear to pretend in front of her. The idea of Jennifer never planned for such a situation. When my children called, I had no strategy for what to say, but I needed to talk to him. I chose to call my son, who is typically more composed and mature than my daughter. I informed him that her had cheated on me the previous night with her former lover, or admirer, stalker, or whatever you want to call him. Was shocked to hear that his own mother had done such a thing. He knew that we had a strong, loving family and we had image. Our children, as well as our relatives and friends, had always admired our close-knit, resilient, and proud thing, and kept insisting that there must be some misunderstanding. He repeatedly asked for the details and wanted everything explained in order. However, I knew that going over all taught his life. I expressed my wish that it were just a joke, but Mom had confessed her infidelity to me. He is 24 and her situation is taking a toll on him in a different way. I asked him to promise not to tell anyone until I did. I sent a text to ND would be out of town for some time, which stopped the phone calls. So the situation was this. While my daughter I had left her. Over the next few days, I spent time online searching for the best lawyers and looking for a solution to my problem. I faced a similar fate to mine. I read about how they had planned their revenge and taken action against their child and understand their feelings. I truly do. But seeking revenge on Jennifer is the last thing I would consider in life. I still love her life in such a way. I do not want to, but I also cannot be with her again. Reconciliation is not an option for me. I will recover from it. I have numerous responsibilities to manage, my work, my children, my assets, and more. I have scheduled an appointment. I will provide an update as soon as I make progress. Hey everyone, thank you for all the support. While reading your formation, both Jennifer and I were management consultants, but in our late 40s, we both left our full-time jobs. Jen consultant for startups. As a self-employed individual, I do not have a fixed workplace. One of you mentioned concern occasionally work from home or visit clients' offices, I consult for multiple clients simultaneously. So far, Jennifer has not been able to find me. As I mentioned earlier, I am approaching 60, and we have been planning in beach house in the countryside for our retirement years, with plans to purchase it next year. We have even identifiers. Fortunately, we have not made the purchase yet. Otherwise, it would have presented a different set of challenge. I met with the lawyer the day after my initial post, and he advised me to inform the children about the separation, give Purdy, and I have decided to split it evenly between Jennifer and myself. No, my retaliation would not involve depriving Jennifer of her wealth. Jennifer has a right to half of our assets, and sure or well, she might even give up her claim to the wealth to try to reconcile and keep our family intact. While the divorce idron, I asked my son to discreetly bring his sister to a restaurant without mentioning that I would be there. He agreed, started bombarding me with questions including if I was the one cheating on her mom since she knew I had cut off. I was about to reveal. I reassured her that I wasn't involved with anyone else, then gradually disclosed the truth. Though my son was all ready to learn that her mom had been unfaithful. She had been staying with Jennifer for the past 15 days since I left. She should give our marriage another chance. But I made it clear that divorce was my decision. They broke down, and seeing Ed to support me through this ordeal. I assured them that while I was separating from their mom, I would always be eating or sleeping properly. She had been oscillating between crying and nervously pacing while trying to reach me. She even drove to several of her. I hadn't been there for weeks. When our daughter asked her if something had happened between us, Jennifer why with her mom until the divorce was finalized. I can see their sorrow, turning into anger when we talk about their loss, too. Our family is broken and there's one person to blame. However, I don't want them to harbor hatred, and you won't believe. A few days later, I got a text from Bill asking about Jennifer. He said that if I was divorcing her after finding out about Jennifer was free to make her own choices. Then I blocked him. I'm sure he was trying to provoke me, but I felt no one or trust him. That was all with Jennifer, who betrayed me. I'm not insecure. He can have her if she wants him. I code to be sent today, and I'm waiting for my daughter's call about Jennifer's reaction. I'll update you once the divorce is fine. In the meantime, I have many matters to deal with. My assets, retirement, and my children's well-being. Heavy on to handle. First and foremost, my divorce is now settled. When Jennifer received the papers, she didn't take it well. She sighed where she believed I would return once my anger subsided. That illusion shattered when she got the papers. She stating she was getting half of the assets, which was more than she deserved. She said she didn't want any assets, only signing the papers, confident that if we had one conversation she could convince me to reconsider. She was right if I couldn't bear to see her suffer, but I couldn't compromise my self-respect. She took me for granted and tore our family apart. I won't delve into that to meet urgently. She told me that Jennifer's condition had worsened to the point of hospitalization. Jennifer had been admitted to the hospital and put on a liquid diet because she had stopped eating. I understand that fear due to my apparent indifference to her health. My response is simple. Have you ever been betrayed? If not, you see here, my wife is an understatement. I idolized her. We've been together for almost 3 decades. She's the mother of my children. Bill was partially right: talent, empathy, and all the qualities one desires in a partner. I made sure to treat her accordingly. But what did she need? She would betray me, especially with Bill. A few days after Jennifer received the divorce papers, Maggie reached her. We were separating. She wasn't surprised and mentioned that she knew the reason. Later, during another call, Jennifer had confessed. She expressed her regrets and revealed she had tried to warn Jennifer about Bill. Maggie advised her not to go out. Reinforced my decision. Her version of the incident had a slight variation from Jennifer's. According to Maggie, she advances. He whispered in her ear, which Jennifer claimed was an apology. Maggie was uncomfortable with Bill, didn't seem to enjoy his company. When Bill suggested a walk, Jennifer looked to Maggie for guidance. Maggie eventually excused herself and went with him. Maggie wasn't too worried because Jennifer had shown interest. Maggie was enjoying herself with other friends when she realized Jennifer hadn't returned. Worried, she went to see room of the college swimming pool. Jennifer had said they were on the lawn. Maggie caught them in the act, and Jennifer's guilty conscience that stopped things. It was Maggie's interruption. Up until then, I had some pride in her betrayal. I believed her story that alcohol led her to the mistake, and her conscience stopped her. However, she did it because she wanted to. The college pool was at least a 15-minute walk from where we were, and the Changyu don't end up there by accident. It was deliberate. After sharing her side, Maggie asked if I could ever consider give Ifia had confessed her mistakes honestly, but Nancy was unaware that Jennifer's story was different from what she told. That's when I lost all respect for her. Meanwhile, my children informed me that Jennifer's condition was worsening. Dee explained how Jennifer had told me a different version of events. I asked Nancy to visit Jennifer and have a frank knowing her immense suffering. I also instructed Nancy to tell Jennifer that I knew the true events of that night and had known it was in Jennifer's best interest to focus on her health because I knew she was harming herself in hopes of reconcilia. Ave me an update. Although Jennifer had not fully recovered from her depression and weakness, my daughter had signed the divorce papers, which was a huge relief for me. My plan is to finish up my work and then set off on a so it would drive me mad. I know I haven't handled this situation as well as some in this community who have faced sim holds. I'll keep you all updated. Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. It's been a year since my last update. I wish I could end a few months in a motel, and later rented a condo until my divorce was finalized. Regarding work, I transitioned TEY, Jennifer got 50%, and I distributed my share evenly between my 2 adult children. I don't need it. And they are RG therapy. Nancy keeps regular contact with her and occasionally checks in on me. She shared something surprising Jennifer well, even after her infidelity. This news made me question if I ever really knew her. I always thought Jennifer was a strong woman with a resilient mind, but it seems loneliness has deeply affected her. Until he learned about our divorce. Strangely, once he found out, he started acting differently and eventually decommunicating with her after learning about the divorce. She reminded him of his claims of love and desire to be WTH Jennifer for a casual fling, which he got. He said he couldn't commit to marriage or any emotional relationship with Jennifer. It's almost unbelievable that she would beg Bill for a relationship. She couldn't have fallen lower because everyone knew Bill was a scoundrel. Bill admitted that he was only interested RT, not just physical intimacy. He revealed he had a live-in partner and was content with that arrangement. His lover he ended it with a cruel remark. He indirectly taunted Jennifer by suggesting he had outsmarted her, implying she realized she had lost everything by falling for his lies. The last update I got about Jennifer was a couple of weeks out. She needed someone to help her cope with her depression. However, after a year, my daughter realized she couldn't continue living with Jennifer, who had become extremely erratic, constantly seeking attention. She had become delusional and disoriented. Jennifer turned into a controlling messages if they didn't respond quickly. She even insisted my son move in with her until he got married, but he'd UT with friends or taking vacations. My children are adults now and can't be restricted. Whenever my daughter tried TWN, fearing she would lose them after losing me, my children reassured her they wouldn't abandon her and would try. However, they warned her that if she continued being controlling, they might have to reconsider. This led to heated during her toughest times. This behavior is unfamiliar to me, and my children are just as perplexed. Ultimately, they had once happy family. What was once a harmonious and safe family environment is now broken. It was hard for her to out 2 weeks ago. She told me she had tried her best to help Jennifer, but couldn't put her life on hold. I believe my life, and Jennifer needs to take control of hers. While some might find satisfaction in seeing their cheating ex-wife in misery in their 20s or 30s, I couldn't find happiness or choices have condemned her to a lifetime of suffering. I hope she can rediscover her former self, a confident, emotional support. As for my journey, I've spent the past year living in 4 different countries, exploring local culture lifestyles. Initially, I was disappointed that my retirement plans had to change. I always envisioned spending my golden in embracing various cultures and lifestyles. I've had the privilege of meeting incredible people around the world. To clarify, I haven't entered into any new relationships, nor am I actively seeking one. I'll remain open to whatever can happens. Hello everyone, I apologize for not providing updates over the past few years. The truth is, not much for my extensive travels to more than a dozen countries and my renewed passion for painting. Initially, I started this seem relevant to update it with my travel experiences, so I refrained. However, an event occurred that prompted Jennifer again. This reunion was because of my son's upcoming wedding. My son found the love of his life and decided to get married. 2 months before the wedding, he called and asked if I did, suggesting I could meet them at the wedding, but I soon realized it wasn't about me. It was about being us at the wedding. Although I hadn't confirmed my attendance, I decided to join at the last minute. It was tough seeing Jen F. us attend. Still, I knew I needed to be there for my son. When I arrived, Jennifer seemed surprised. She looked different. She greeted me with a polite smile, but I sensed her tension. Over the years, she had always kept her long, thick hair. They seated us next to each other at the table, which made me suspect our son hadn't informed the host that this WF others, but as soon as we had a chance to talk privately, she commented on how much healthier and happier I look. Fair. This caught her off guard, and she glanced around to ensure no one overheard. She asked if I was in a relationship. None of her concern. During our conversation, I barely made eye contact with her, focusing on everyone else. After dinner, when it was Tim dead at Jennifer, telling her to take care, she seemed surprised as she stood up while I was saying my goodbyes to Eve Ward for the others. Surprisingly, my interaction with Jennifer was uneventful. She seemed either intimidated or too inking or not. I didn't dwell on it much after leaving the gathering. My son accompanied me outside and offered for him I would call. I then drove to my hotel. By the way, I don't have a permanent residence. I'm mostly out of town, and when I'm into being a family man for 26 years was challenging, but I've grown accustomed to this adventurous life and thoroughly I now have a companion. During my visit to Tokyo 2 years ago, I met Ashleen, who was 52. She had recently left and I acted while hiking up a mountain. We became friends because neither of us was seeking a romantic relationship at Tea Island. We stayed in touch for 6 months and eventually started planning our trips together. For the past year and a half, we companions and didn't rush into anything physical or emotional during the first 2 months. We took our time and didn't want to get married. For now, we want to enjoy traveling and exploring different places. My children knew about her depression again. After arriving at the hotel, I called my son to explain why I declined his invitation to stay with. I couldn't leave her alone. I expressed my desire for Ashleen to attend the wedding. He was excited, but also concerned about Jennifer's reaction to her and should meet my family. My son added his sister to the call to get her opinion. She agreed that Ashleen show I'm to give Ashleen a city tour since it was her first visit to Kentucky. On the wedding day, as soon as we arrived, I know she saw me holding hands with Ashleen at the venue. I had warned Ashleen about the possibility of Jennifer's unplea. This was the first time I saw how controlling Jennifer had become since our separation. She rushed toward us and want a private conversation. She questioned if Ashleen was my girlfriend or if I planned to marry her. I replied that because guests were arriving and someone noticing Jennifer's tears and anger. She insisted that she didn't care about trying to calm her mom down, but Jennifer refused to go with her. We pointed out that she was disrupting the words. Surely gentle daughter became a force to be reckoned with. She didn't just lose her temper, she gave Jennifer a stern talking to that I never expected. In a hushed yet commanding on Dad's arm and be with Dad, but you chose someone else, so either accept it and move on right now, or I almost wanted to intervene, as it's natural for a parent to do so when the child is in distress, but my daughter was. Pointed her finger at Jennifer and meant every word. I felt the tension in Jennifer's grip on my wrist release. I saw Jennifer's face quiver as she let go of me. She stared at me for a few seconds, her expression shifting from Angie revealed a whirlwind of emotions. After this, Jennifer walked away. Needless to say, she didn't introduce herself to I, who then hugged us. I reassured her that there was no need to apologize. My daughter is strong, and I'm proud of her, Dad. We've suffered enough. She needs to move on or leave you alone. Jennifer had made everyone's life miserable. My children don't have a family home to gather in for special occasions, and I acknowledge my responsibility for that. That our children were supportive of me. She either stood in a corner or appeared more excluded than a mother. Nancy called me a few days ago and mentioned that Jennifer had taken this as a blow to her ego, seeing me move and I had done with Jennifer's drama, and she's on her own. She can do as she pleases. I just want to enjoy the reminder. I'm considering staying closer to my kids and providing them with a family home to gather in, even though their GR approaching and I might become a grandparent. However, I won't be sharing that with Jennifer, and I'm perfectly fine. Want to express my gratitude for the advice and experiences shared by many of you. I wish you all to remain loyal and do it for your children. Life is good and there's always more to enjoy. Take care. What would you have done in my shoe for someone navigating the aftermath of infidelity? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Your insights might just help someone else going through tea.